He spent 20 years fighting monsters and saving another world. He was just used. His reward was finally going home. But the Earth waiting for him is no longer the one he remembers. Monsters are pouring through dimensional rifts, hunters are dying every day, and humanity is only beginning its nightmare. For everyone else, this is the end of the world. For the man who has already saved one before, it's just another Tuesday. After 20 years away from Earth, Lee Hyun-suk prepared to defeat the monster and finally save the world. From within the smoke and darkness, the monster's glowing red eyes emerged. The monster taunted Lee Hyun-suk for surviving the attack, calling it truly befitting of a hero. However, the monster pointed out that the Saintess, Mage, and Knight were barely hanging on. Lee Hyun-suk countered by telling the monster it didn't look so hot itself. Enraged, the monster shouted how insolent, while gathering a surge of dark energy in its hand. The MC braced himself and turned sharply, gripping his weapon as the monster's attack approached. In the next instant, the MC launched a powerful counterattack, clashing directly with the monster. Meanwhile, the Saintess and her allies struggled to maintain a magical barrier as the shockwaves struck them. The monster threatened that if they would not submit, it would tear them to pieces. The monster roared that this land was a kingdom forged by its teeth and claws. The MC braced himself, ready to face the monster's next attack. A fierce clash erupted as the MC and the monster collided in a burst of energy. Tightly gripping his weapon, the MC prepared for his decisive move. With flames swirling around him, the MC declared, "Let's end this." A blinding explosion of flame erupted as the MC unleashed his attack at close range. The MC activated his powerful skill, Paradox Flame, engulfing the area in fire. With debris flying everywhere, the MC drove his attack forward, overwhelming his opponent. After that, he pushed off from the ground, sending cracks through the earth beneath his foot. His slash broke the earth. The monster and the MC locked eyes, each preparing for the next clash. With a burst of force, the monster lunged at the MC, shattering the ground around them. The MC countered with a powerful swing of his weapon, unleashing a blinding flash. Landing hard, the MC steadied himself with his spear and gritted his teeth in pain. The monster taunted that an attack that soft wouldn't leave even a scratch. In response, the MC echoed the monster's words, questioning if his attack was really soft. He unleashed a blazing spear strike directly at the towering monster. His attack was more than enough to cut down the monster's arrogance. A massive explosion of energy erupted as the attack landed. Amid the aftermath, a golden ornament from the monster's crown crashed to the ground. The monster's chest erupted in red energy as the MC stood before its massive form. The creature admitted it never expected a human in this world could stand against it. The MC declared once again that he was not from this world. The monster dismissed his words as nonsense, insisting that its body would one day be absorbed into the land and rise again. With glowing red eyes, the monster reacted in shock and disbelief. The monster questioned whether it was being erased as the protagonist pointed out its trouble regenerating. In response, he explained that the black flame burning the monster was his special ability, the Paradox Flame, which used abstract concepts as fuel instead of oxygen. He continued, saying that although the monster had spent centuries resurrecting itself, that era was over, because what was burning now was something different. The MC revealed that what was burning away was the monster's very existence. The monster wondered if its time had ended, but warned that MC would never be remembered as the hero who saved the world. The monster revealed that the people the protagonist considered companions were actually just waiting for him to die there. The MC calmly responded that he already knew, shocking his opponent. The Saintess urgently warned the protagonist not to believe the monster, but he began exposing how she had claimed to love him and seduced him every day. In truth, he explained, the Saintess despised him for being an outsider and her seduction was all part of a plan. Her scheme was to make him hesitate to attack her when the time came to eliminate him after the subjugation was over. Only then did the protagonist ask the Saintess if he was wrong about her intentions. But the Saintess could only remain silent, unable to deny his accusation. The Knight and the Mage had been no different. The Knight had even received a national treasure from the Emperor to eliminate him after the monster's death. As for the Mage, he hated MC for opposing the slavery system despite his interest in human experimentation. In the end, MC admitted that he had known about their betrayal for 5 years. The monster admitted it could not understand the protagonist's actions. It pointed out that with the power the protagonist used to corner it, he could have easily destroyed the world that betrayed him. In response, he explained that he did not do that because he simply wanted to go home. The monster reacted in disbelief, repeating that the protagonist wanted to go home. The story shifts to 20 years ago, on Earth in 2005. The protagonist recalls being an ordinary 30-year-old office worker until a goddess transported him to another world and tasked him with saving it from monsters. He notes that there are many stories about ordinary people succeeding in other worlds, but the world he arrived in was different. Instead, the other world he entered was a disaster, filled with chaos and desperate cries for help. No matter what he tried to return to Earth, the only way was to defeat the monsters and save the world. For 20 years, the protagonist trained relentlessly to fight against the monsters. 2 guards stopped him at the gate, warning that even a hero couldn't act alone and questioning what he was carrying. MC explained that he had rescued a child from the village and demanded to be let inside. One of the guards scoffed that the child was about to die and called it a waste of medicine. He realized this alternate world was cruel enough to abandon the wounded, but an even more serious problem was about to emerge. A frantic medic ordered the others to hold the patient down so they could amputate before the infection spread, highlighting the medieval levels of medicine and hygiene. The protagonist realized they were amputating a child's leg for a simple infection because all the healers had been mobilized for battle, leaving no one to treat the wounded. Someone called out to the protagonist, addressing him as Sir Hero. A group of clergy questioned how the protagonist managed to rescue the child from monsters. One of the clergy declared that the child survived because a demon had taken root within, announcing they would perform the exorcism themselves, since they were already in the middle of exorcising others. A member of the clergy pressured the protagonist not to go against the will of the gods, insisting he cast aside his pity for salvation. These disgusting otherworlders with no concept of human rights. After enduring 20 years in the agonizing otherworld, the protagonist finally defeated the monster and saved the world. The protagonist looked weary as he declared that it was finally over. Someone admitted relief that the protagonist had discovered the truth, but declared they could not let him live. Turning back, the protagonist asked if they knew something, and confessed that he truly hated this world. The knight clenched his teeth in irritation and cursed under his breath. The hero took enough damage to die on the spot, but he's fine. While he can't even move easily, they created a monster just to catch another monster. Raising his voice, MC shouted that he had completed the mission he was given and demanded that they keep their promise. As the beam of light pierced the blood-red sky, everyone looked up in shock. A blinding explosion of light erupted from the sky, illuminating the battlefield below. A divine voice praised him for enduring so much and declared that he had defeated the monster through his arduous efforts. MC reminded the goddess of her promise that after he caught the monster, all his experiences, memories, and even his soul would be perfectly preserved. He continued, recalling that she had promised to send him back to Earth. A divine voice questioned whether he truly disliked this world, warning that if he returned to Earth, all the achievements of hero Lee Hyun-suk would be void. MC dismissed the act, saying the goddess was just relieved he was leaving as promised, while the divine voice admitted the world no longer needed a monster. A divine voice asked the protagonist if he would truly not regret his decision. The main character declared that his only desire was to return to the world he once knew. He finished by saying that was all he wanted. The divine voice responded with a simple very well. At last, the protagonist reflected that this godforsaken otherworld was finally behind him. A blinding pillar of light engulfed the protagonist as the transfer process began. A divine voice explained that since his physical body on Earth had perished, his soul would be placed into a new vessel. The protagonist asked whose body he would inhabit. She said that she cannot explain in detail, but this body is fated for a wretched end. However, she is certain he will be able to survive, and the protagonist resolved that as long as he could return to Earth, he didn't care about inheriting an unsavory fate. No matter how harsh or difficult his new fate might be, the protagonist was determined to face it. The protagonist believed that whatever awaited him would surely be better than what he had endured so far. Yoo Chan-suk lay in bed, wondering aloud if he had truly returned. Year 2025, hero Lee Hyun-suk entered the body of civilian Yoo Chan-seok. Clenching his fist, Yoo Chan-suk muttered angrily about the rotten otherworld bastards. Just as he began to appreciate not having to see those traitors anymore, he suddenly noticed a mirror in the room. Looking into the mirror, Yoo Chan-suk realized that this body would be his from now on. Still kneeling by the mirror, Yoo Chan-suk realized he was truly back on Earth. Delighting in the sensation, Yoo Chan-suk reveled in the clean, uncontaminated water, calling it real magic compared to anything mages could do. Amazed by the convenience, he celebrated being able to create fire with just the press of a button, glad to be free from chopping wood and campfires. With excitement, Yoo Chan-suk exclaimed that this was exactly what he had missed. Yoo Chan-suk stared in disbelief at the box of fried chicken, barely able to believe it was real. With wide eyes and drool at the corner of his mouth, he picked up a piece of chicken, overwhelmed by anticipation. As he ate, Yoo Chan-suk exclaimed that the food was so good it brought tears to his eyes, declaring this was what real food tasted like. Tears streaming down his face, he admitted how much he had missed all of this. Looking out the window, Yoo Chan-suk thought that he could finally live a normal life, just as a mysterious red light appeared in the city. Yoo Chan-seok realized he needed to adapt to the present-day Earth, shocked to discover it was already 2025, but decided it didn't matter since the otherworld's time had matched this world. No matter how difficult it might be to adjust, he believed nothing on Earth could be more horrifying than what he experienced in the otherworld. He savored the feeling of hot water pouring down instantly in the shower, something he never had to wait for anymore. He appreciated the luxury of cold air that came out with just the push of a button. Looking out at the clear, bright sky, Yu Chansuk thought to himself that this was nothing like that nasty other world. Yu Chansuk wondered what he should do first in the year 2025, joking that maybe he'd start with StarCraft as a monstrous figure loomed behind him. The creature lunged at him with a terrifying scream, catching him completely off guard. Shocked and confused, he demanded to know what was happening as an announcement began for all residents. A corrosion rift had appeared in the apartment complex, leaving him bewildered by the unfamiliar term. As the announcement urged everyone to evacuate to the underground shelter, he questioned what in the world was going on. After that, the protagonist found himself surrounded by bizarre, grinning creatures as they closed in from all sides. Without hesitation, Yu Chansuk bolted out of the room with the monsters in pursuit. He sprinted down the hallway, desperate to escape the terrifying creatures chasing after him. As the monsters flooded into the corridor, Yu Chansuk frantically wondered what these things could possibly be. While the monsters rushed up the stairs, he slipped out through the window to avoid them. After that, he climbed inside, looking around. Catching his breath, Yu Chansuk thought he had finally managed to lose his pursuers. Turning a corner, he was startled to spot a young boy running down the hallway, realizing it was another person. Yu Chansuk warned the boy that it was dangerous and told him to hurry to the shelter, but the boy instead asked if he had seen where the monster went. The boy declared that he was going to kill the monster and invited Yu Chansuk to join him. Yu Chansuk stared at the boy in disbelief and asked him to repeat what he just said. He learned that Earth had been in this state for 13 years, which left him frustrated. Since the boy refused to go to the shelter, he couldn't just leave him alone and ended up tagging along. And he tried to confirm if he was understanding everything correctly. He confirmed that a corrosion rift is an exit monsters come out of, and nobody knows when or where they will appear. Yu Chansuk grew frustrated, thinking he had endured a living hell, just to return to an Earth that had become a hellhole as well. He mentally cursed the goddess, wondering if this situation wasn't too much even for her. The boy asked Yu Chansuk why he didn't know any of this, and Yu Chansuk replied that he had been living in America for a while. The boy questioned how he managed that. He heard about the US president being impeached for trying to send his daughter to Korea, leaving him confused by the conversation. He hesitated, then changed the subject by asking about the hunter he liked, and he shouted Lee Sun's name. The boy explained that Lee Sun is in the Janabi Guild, ranked 10th on Earth, and currently fighting a corrosion rift in Chorwan. Even so, Yu Chansuk wondered how a normal human could be fighting a monster, just like in the world he came from, and questioned how that was possible. He admitted that he especially liked Lee San's cool greatsword. Before the boy could finish talking about a must-see Lee San video, he quickly covered his mouth. Frustrated, Yu Chansuk thought, damn it, while keeping his hand over the boy's mouth as the boy looked up in confusion. A group of 6 masked monsters appeared, confirming the threat was even greater than it first seemed. Yu Chansuk quickly counted 5 visible monsters but realized there was a 6th one hiding. He was relieved that his current body had above-average strength and thought he could handle multiple enemies, but still hesitated. Yu Chansuk wondered what to do with the frightened boy, knowing something bad would happen if he left him alone. Without a proper weapon, Yu Chansuk questioned how he was supposed to fight back. He noticed a strange energy swirling in the air and wondered if it could be mana. He became certain it was the same mana he had encountered in the other world. One of the masked monsters was suddenly struck, smoke rising from its head. A burst of energy hit the monsters, causing one to disintegrate, while the others recoiled in shock. Although the mana he had accumulated for 20 years was gone, Yu Chansuk realized he could use the mana present in the air. He realized he could still use the Paradox Flame, since it was engraved on his soul, though the firepower was a bit disappointing. Even so, he decided this much power should be more than enough, as the boy shouted in amazement. A child admitted being skeptical at first but was impressed to learn he had a unique skill, while he was just glad the kid wasn't hurt. He remembered that the Hunter Academy channel said confirming the kill was important and started to run over. Then the protagonist focused on the flames of the Paradox Flame and shouted at the child not to go out until the target was dead. He called out, "Kiddo," making the boy freeze. As his bloody hands struck the monster, MC admitted he didn't know what his video was about. Standing protectively, he told the younger boy that he should probably stop watching these. Can he borrow the staff he's holding? Yu Chansuk stood protectively in front of the boy as the monster loomed over them, its attack shattering the ground. Without hesitation, Yu Chansuk lunged forward, swinging the staff with all his strength. The boy stared in shock and awe, unable to believe what he had just witnessed. As the boy excitedly asked if he was secretly a hunter, Yu Chansuk could only sigh in exasperation. He reflected that even after returning to Earth, he still had to endure the stench of blood. Yu Chansuk clenched his teeth, thinking that after enduring so much suffering, he had hoped to finally rest. But now, Earth seemed just as harsh. He realized with frustration that this world was no different from the one he had escaped. Meanwhile, the crowd gathered in the shelter, murmuring anxiously among themselves. Yu Chansuk questioned whether little brats was now the term for grade schoolers, while the boy beside him protested that it was a mean way to refer to elementary students. A woman suddenly shouted "Yun Sang" in alarm, drawing startled looks from those nearby. Yu Chansuk was thanked by the boy's mother for bringing Yun Sung safely, as she admitted her son could be reckless. Noticing her designer clothes and luxury earrings, Yu Chansuk realized the boy was actually a rich young master. Suddenly the room shook, and everyone froze. A massive black fist smashed down, sending debris flying everywhere. The monstrous figure crashed through the ceiling, landing in the middle of the terrified crowd. The monster lunged forward with its jaws wide open, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth and a lashing tongue. As chaos erupted, someone shouted that the outer wall of the shelter had collapsed and urged everyone to run. A young boy called out to Yu Chansuk, insisting that they needed to run this time. While the boy desperately called for him, Yu Chansuk thought to himself that he wasn't asking for much. All he wanted was to return to the world he knew, to the home he missed so dearly. He wondered if he had really asked for too much as he looked at his injured hand. MC called the boy a brat, prompting him to protest against being called that. He didn't understand why the boy, whose family was rich, still wanted to become a hunter instead of living safely. The boy revealed that he lost his father to a monster. He explained that a corrosion rift appeared in the supposedly safe underground bunker, making him realize there was no truly safe place on Earth. The boy admitted he wasn't strong yet and still feared monsters, but declared his goal to become the strongest hunter and eliminate all the corrosion rifts. With determination, the boy shouted that he would save the world, leaving Yu Chansuk visibly stunned. The protagonist told him it might sound like a foolish dream, but reassured the boy that he would become a great hunter. However, Yu Chansuk added that the boy would not be able to save the world. A woman urgently told Yunsuk that it was time to leave, while the boy protested, worried that the man was still there. The woman urgently pulled the boy away as he looked back in shock. The boy shouted, "Mister," while struggling against his mother's grip. Releasing his powerful mana, the protagonist declared he would be the one to do it. He stared ahead, repeating the words "saving the world" to himself. Yu Chansuk finished his thought, saying that saving the world is a job for someone who's done it before. After being summoned to another world and fighting monsters for 20 years, Yu Chansuk returned to Earth but was immediately faced with a corrosion rift. He survived by relying on his past life's experience and made a promise to a child that he would save the world. Despite that promise, he ended up doing nothing. While chewing on a snack, MC casually remarked that he won and that it was too easy. Although people say someone who saved the world once can do it again, he questioned what difference that really makes. Yu Chansuk reflects that, although he declared his intentions confidently in front of everyone, his desire to save the world quickly faded. He enjoyed the games and plentiful food he could only dream of in the other world, along with the convenience of a system where anything was possible with a single touch. Since there were already hunters responsible for saving the world, Yu Chansuk considered ordering some delivery instead. After realizing he had already spent all his severance pay, he recalled that the original owner of this body, Yu Chansuk, lost his job when the logistics company went bankrupt due to a corrosion rift. Now that his severance pay had run out, MC had already tried to find a new job but saw no way to get a normal one. Because of the constantly appearing corrosion rifts, most companies were going out of business, so he figured it was to be expected. He wondered what he was supposed to do since surviving in modern society required a job, but no one seemed to be hiring. Looking at his phone, Yu Chansuk noticed a hunter recruitment advertisement. He considers that he does have experience in this line of work as the scene shifts to the Hunter Association building. Inside the building, one person excitedly announces they're going to be a hunter, while another reminds them it's just the hunter selection. Two men commented that the selection test had become just a formality, and now anyone with a unique skill got chosen. One of them observes that all the candidates are basically the same, dismissing them as just a bunch of small fries. As the huntress walked forward, her colleague asked, "Aren't they going to get too famous?" The other man remarks that regardless, this batch is the best so far. Lee Seon is suddenly recognized with shock as someone exclaims, "What the hell? It's Lee Seon!" Someone in the crowd shouts in disbelief, recognizing Lee Seon from Janabi. Lee Seon is introduced as the 10th ranked world hunter affiliated with the Janabi Guild as a partner hunter. A group of onlookers express surprise that Lee Seon appeared, since she was thought to be away subjugating a corrosion rift, and wonder why the Janabi Guild sent someone to scout in person. As someone questions who the visitors are here for, Han Sang-a's profile is shown, revealing her abilities as a swordsman with electrokinesis. Lee Seon remarked that Han Sang-a could probably charge batteries, while her companion clarified she was a hunter candidate, not a power generator. She's skilled with her ability and would likely be useful, though Seon was unsure. Suddenly, their colleague yelled, "Hunting in corrosion rifts counted as real combat," and scared them. He pointed out that excelling at the academy didn't guarantee success in actual combat, while Han Sang-a handed him some candy in agreement. Practice and real combat were completely different, and it would take Han Sang-a a long time to adapt. As the crowd filled the arena, an announcement declared that the first match would now begin. Lee Sen said, "The team leader must know that too, but is it really okay for her to be away for a whole week? One way or another, she has to do the job she was given. Now, future hunters must raise their value enough to make her want to take them." A commentator, surprised by the situation, remarks that the candidate is quite interesting because he is a civilian who never attended the Hunter Academy. Someone grips a weapon tightly as the commentator declares that this situation is unprecedented. As Yu Chansuk stands on stage, The commentator wonders what kind of guts he must have to be there. The announcer introduces candidate Yu Chansuk to the crowd, while he admits to himself that he's still not used to the new name. The announcer explains that only association-provided weapons are allowed, and life-threatening injuries are prohibited in the match. Yu Chansuk thinks to himself that since he decided to become a hunter, his first goal is to save this world that's destined to fall. At the same time, his opponent grins while Yu Chansuk adds internally that he also needs to live well and eat well. To achieve his goals, he must get good results in this tournament, as the announcer calls both candidates to their positions. Suddenly, a new figure raises his arm dramatically as the atmosphere shifts. The referee slams his fist down and shouts for the match to begin. Yu Chansuk's opponent laughs, mocking him for being unable to gather mana. He must consider that an honor to lose to him. After all, he is the undefeated spearmaster of the Hunter Academy. The protagonist wasn't even afraid and prepared for battle. Yu Chansuk's opponent is shocked, as his flaming spear attack is suddenly disrupted mid-strike. Staring in disbelief, the spearmaster realizes that Yu Chansuk has vanished from sight. Appearing behind his opponent, Yu Chansuk taunts him for being clumsy with the spear. Without hesitation, he drove his fist into his opponent's stomach, knocking the wind out of him. MC followed up with a powerful uppercut, sending his opponent reeling from the impact. He used his bare hands instead of a spear, worried he might hurt his opponent too badly otherwise. To him, the other guy seemed like a complete beginner, which was honestly shocking for a hunter. Lee Seon stared at him in disbelief, wondering what was up with that guy. She learned his previous job was at a logistics company, and noted he had almost no mana accumulated in his body. Her colleague explained that generating that much power should require years of mana accumulation, so maybe he just got lucky. For this answer, he received a candy from her. She realized that he was intentionally not accumulating mana. While the crowd questioned how it was possible, the protagonist decided to finish things decisively to prove his abilities. His opponent recoiled in shock, unable to understand how he managed such a feat. He assured his opponent that the next attack would not be a fatal wound. The poor guy was left stunned by an unexpected blow. As the defeated candidate hit the ground, the system announced Yu Chansuk as the winner. A group of workers discussed the outcome with growing interest, but the other group was also very interested in the main character. Looking at that, Lee San decided to act while the others were still evaluating him, eager to see his real skills. She left her seat, saying she needed to see the association president. Yu Chansuk easily defeats another opponent, thinking that even for rookie hunters, they're just too weak. No matter how many matches he fought, Yu Chansuk noticed that all his opponents were about the same level. He wondered what on earth they actually taught at the so-called Hunter Academy as he sent another opponent flying. Looking frustrated, he asks if there isn't a single decent one among them. After they found a new opponent for the protagonist, some employees in the audience began to discuss. They finally got what they were waiting for. She's very pretty. An announcement introduced Han Sai-na as the grand finale candidate, questioning if she could stop the mysterious super rookie's streak. Yu Chansuk observes Han Sai-na and begins to acknowledge her abilities, remarking that she is at least on a certain level. Han Sai-na is the one who has gathered the most mana out of everyone he saw that day. She points out that despite his progress, he has nothing, and he questions if that generic line is also taught at the Hunter Academy. Han Sai-na remarks that since Yu Chansuk is just throwing punches, he must not have a unique skill. Even so, Han Sai-na warns that she won't go easy on him. Yu Chansuk awkwardly thanks her, while internally admitting that he does have a unique skill, but isn't using it out of concern she might get hurt. Han Sai-na charges up with energy, preparing to attack. With the command to fight, both clash as their weapons and energy collide. Han Sai-na unleashed a powerful lightning-charged attack, but Yu Chansuk managed to evade at the last moment. After dodging the attack, Yu Chansuk landed behind his opponent, leaving her stunned by his speed. She couldn't believe that he dodged her lighting just by jumping. Yu Chansuk analyzed her technique, noting that she made the scabbard and blade magnetic with electricity, and used that force to create a railgun effect. He admitted that her skills were the best so far, but pointed out that she had overlooked the most important thing. Yu Chansuk explained to Han Sai-na that she was too focused on attacking quickly and thinking about when to strike. He revealed that Han Sai-na's mistake was laying down a magnetic rail in the air to accelerate her sword. He explained that no matter how fast or powerful the attack was, no one would take a strike with its path in plain sight. His opponent snapped back, telling him not to get cocky. Charging forward with electricity crackling around her, Han Sai-na shouted that she could beat him even without using that technique. MC taunted his opponent, saying he had already dodged the fastest attack and wouldn't get hit by this one. Charging forward with electricity crackling around her, Han Sai-na prepared to strike. A surge of energy erupted as she unleashed her attack, filling the area with light and force. He noticed that she was overdoing it, forcing herself to scrape together mana. The protagonist realized that if she kept this up, her body was going to get wrecked. MC told his opponent that it was cool, but suggested they stop the fight there. She must raise her left hand if it hurts. After that, an incredible punch landed right at her stomach. Han Sai-na grimaced in pain, clenching her teeth as the impact landed. A powerful kick sent the protagonist's opponent flying backward across the floor. A powerful kick landed, sending his opponent crashing into the ground with a burst of force. She stared up in shock, clearly stunned by the impact. Exhausted, she fell to the floor. Spectators gasped in disbelief, realizing that someone had just overwhelmed Han Sai-na, the academy's top student. Yu Chan-suk reflected that while Han Sai-na was more skilled than the others, her reliance on mana had left her lacking in physical training. Yu Chan-suk was surprised to see Han Sai-na showing signs of getting back up after her defeat. A hand slowly lifted off the ground, responding to the earlier instruction. Han Sai-na, lying on the arena floor, shakily raised her hand while an official knelt beside her. MC was amazed. He told her to raise it and she really did? As the match ended, Yu Chan-suk walked away, while staff members gathered around Han Sai-na on the arena floor. Someone urgently whispered into the announcer's ear, prompting him to shout in shock. The announcer called for everyone's attention and declared that the tournament's schedule had been changed. A broadcast announces Yu Chan-suk as the winner and instructs him to take a short break, leaving him confused about the match's status. The announcement continues, revealing that Yu Chan-suk and an active hunter will soon have a special match, causing surprise in the arena. The broadcast explains that the match was arranged by special permission of the association president and asks for the crowd's support. While two officials react nervously, Yu Chan-suk realized that the opponent's identity had already been revealed to the audience, and judging by their reactions, the challenger must be a highly skilled hunter. He wondered if the special match meant that she had personally stepped up to test his abilities, noting that situations like this were the same, both in that world and on Earth. A voice addressed him directly, confirming his name as Yu Chan-suk. The same voice apologized for appearing without warning, and explained that there was no other way to verify his skills. His opponent introduced herself as Lee Se-en of Janabi, standing confidently with her massive sword. Lee Se-en remarked that the stage had been too small for Yu Chan-suk until now, and challenged him to a match. Lee Se-en told Yu Chan-suk he could refuse if the challenge was too much, while he internally recognized her as the 10th-ranked hunter in the world. He assessed the overwhelming aura and composure coming from Lee Se-en, realizing she was a true professional and that it would be tough to face her even with a spear in his current body. But despite the odds, Yu Chan-suk smiled in anticipation. He agreed to start the match immediately, surprising the referee. MC admitted he hadn't used much stamina so far and thought he might be able to see through her strategy. As Han Sang-ah was carried away on a stretcher, Yu Chan-suk decided that if he had to fight Lee Se-en anyway, it was best to get the best possible results in the tournament. His internal monologue continued, concluding that Lee Se-en was the perfect opponent for that goal. Yu Chan-suk prepares for the challenge, wondering if he should raise his value. Meanwhile, the audience and staff reacted with shock as the tension in the arena rose. His opponent swung her weapon down with incredible force, aiming straight for him. He blocked the attack just in time, gritting his teeth as the impact sent sparks flying. In disbelief, MC wondered how a woman's body could possess so much power. She pressed her assault, forcing him to defend against another powerful strike. The clash sent them flying backward across the arena as the crowd watched in shock. Lee Se-en realized that her speed had dropped considerably compared to the beginning of the fight. Yu Chan-suk internally curses that it's not a lack of openings, but rather his body doesn't have the physical ability to exploit them. Lee Se-en remarked that she had been hoping for a good warm-up, but asked if Yu Chan-suk was already tired, admitting she had not expected him to last 30 minutes. She then declared that she would make it easy for him as she swung her massive sword. At the same time, Yu Chan-suk notes that he has practically no mana stored up. He realized there wasn't much mana in the atmosphere to draw from. Since he had no other choice, he decided to use his special move. With determination, the protagonist activated Paradox Flame. He launched himself forward, shattering the ground as he clashed with his opponent. Lee Se-en watched as he charged through the debris, closing the distance in an instant. She was certain she had swung with enough force that he shouldn't have been able to dodge, but he calmly faced her, prompting her to ask what the black flame surrounding him was. MC revealed the name of his power, Paradox Flame. It was the specialty he had relied on constantly before returning to Earth, and the power he trusted most. As shown by his unscathed clothes, this black flame could not burn matter like normal fire. Yu Chan-suk explains that each of his flames burns using abstract concepts he has designated as fuel. He notes that with his current output, he can't burn concepts with high ignition points like self, memory, or reason, so he chooses a different concept to burn. Lee Se-en rushed forward and asked Yu Chan-suk if he had gotten faster. Yu Chan-suk activates his ability to burn the concept of fatigue, unleashing a powerful attack. Lee Se-en reacted in shock, asking if he really recovered in such a short time. Lee Se-en launched a powerful downward attack, which Yu Chan-suk blocked with his weapon as debris flew around them. She notices that the concentration of mana in the air keeps fluctuating, even though the arena settings haven't changed. Yu Chan-suk explained that just as fire releases heat when it burns matter, Paradox Flame releases mana as it burns abstract concepts. He describes how he uses mana to ignite the Paradox Flame, which then burns his fatigue to generate even more mana. The process forms an endless cycle. Yu Chan-suk explained that his specialty was endurance endurance as he faced off against his opponent. Lee Sun slammed down with tremendous force, sending debris flying everywhere. She glared at him and demanded to know if he's going to keep this up. Yu Chan-suk compares his approach to someone who clings to another's leg and refuses to let go. He reveals that his true specialty is a war of attrition, confidently stating that he can still keep going. Yu Chan-suk grinned and asked if she liked guys who didn't know when to quit. The woman replied coldly that she absolutely hated them. When a tree is set on fire, only ashes remain, and ashes that have already burned cannot be burned again, just as paradox flame leaves behind a residue. If everything is burned away until only ash remains, that will be when the paradox flame disappears. After a while she stated, 4 hours and 17 minutes. Hunter Lee Seon stood over Yu Chan-suk, asking if he wanted to continue after holding out for so long, while he begged for mercy. An announcement declared that with Yu Chan-suk's forfeit, Hunter Lee Seon was the victor. Two men in suits reacted in shock upon seeing a lollipop, exclaiming about it. Lee Seon handed over a lollipop and mentioned that her business card was included as a reward for hard work. The business card revealed Lee Seon's affiliation as a partner hunter with Janabi LLC Team 3. She told him they would talk about the details later and to just give her a call for now. The announcement declared the hunter selection trials over and called winner Yu Chan-suk to the stage, while he wondered if Janabi was a hunter's agency. After a while he bit down on the lollipop, breaking it with his teeth. Yu Chan-suk marveled at how his smartphone now contained a hunter license and offered so many advanced features compared to the past. After noting that the device really had everything, Yu Chan-suk was addressed by someone confirming his identity as a hunter. A large, muscular man greeted Yu Chan-suk, remarking that he looked much better in person than on camera. Yu Chan-suk noted how tall the man was and asked for his identity, after which the man offered his business card. The business card revealed the man's name as Yoon Sung-hyun, a partner hunter from the Taebaek Guild, who invited Yu Chan-suk to join his team. Yoon Sung-hyun promised that Yu Chan-suk would shine if he gained enough experience under him, and Yu Chan-suk thought he seemed sincere. But she was the first to offer cooperation. He thought to himself that he had a prior engagement and couldn't give a firm answer yet, deciding to think it over a bit more. The man laughed and asked if the protagonist thought he would demand an answer right away. Suddenly, he placed a hand on his shoulder and began to speak. Leaning in close, the man warned him to think things through properly, after which he waved and said he'd see him around, and MC remained silent. He decided that he was definitely skipping Taebaek. Lee Sen answered the call, and Yu Chan-suk asked where he should come. She told him she was at the hut on the second floor of the Hunter Association building and would send the location. He looked up at the sign for the hut, repeating the name in surprise. A cheerful staff member greeted him with a warm welcome to the hut. Lee Sen greeted him for arriving early and invited him to have a seat. As he walked into the cafe, she remarked on its unusual name, and she asked if something had happened. He explained that someone had tried to recruit him for a guild, describing the person as a really huge guy. She identified the recruiter as Yoon Sung-hyun of Taebaek, noting that his interest would have discouraged other guilds from making offers. He pointed out that the same logic should apply to Janabi as well. She clarified that she had no intention of recruiting him. Instead, she suggested he could work as a freelancer without being affiliated with a guild. She explained that Yoon Sung-hyun was probably going to offer him a junior position. He asked what a junior was and what a partner hunter meant, prompting her to recall he hadn't attended the Hunter Academy. She explained that hunters in a guild are usually ranked as junior, senior, or partner. She explained that juniors and seniors belong to teams led by partner hunters who can be thought of as salaried employees. Partner hunters, on the other hand, have shares in the guild instead of a salary and share the net profits like business owners. Yu Chan-suk commented that the system sounded exactly like a law firm, and Lee Sin added that guilds were modeled after law firms. She clarifies that it's not necessary to join a guild or go through the junior and senior ranks to become a partner hunter. Yu Chan-suk realizes that if he becomes famous and achieves respectable results, guilds will automatically come looking for him. She enthusiastically agreed, but he couldn't figure out why she kept giving him candy. He realized that without connections or experience, it would be difficult for him to get any proper requests. She offered to help him with that, completely free of charge. The protagonist admitted that he didn't understand why she would go this far for him. Lee Seon explained that in the future, when he was recruited by a guild, she just wanted him to remember the name Janabi, making it clear she was putting him in her debt. She slid an envelope across the table, offering him the choice to take a look at its contents or not. Inside, he found a request from Incheon City about Yeodongdo Island, where a corrosion zone had formed 2 years ago after a failed attempt to eliminate a corrosion rift. MC clarified that his task was not just to get rid of the corrosion rift, but to patrol Yeodongdo Island and eliminate any additional rifts that appeared. The job was set to start in 1 month, with a payment of 5 million won up front and an additional 15 million upon success. Given the life-threatening nature of the job, he noted that the pay wasn't exactly great. She explained that if he feels it's unfair, he should get stronger and become famous, since money will flow in even if his pockets are full. So what is his answer? After a while, Lee Se-eun called her boss, and he wondered what kind of guy he was and if he was really good. She confirmed that his name was Yu Chan Sel-hok, a civilian who cleared a weapons mandatory tournament with his bare hands. She insisted that calling him not bad wasn't appropriate, since she had practically spoon-fed him openings, and he still lasted 4 hours against her. A voice on the phone questioned if her performance was limited by holding back her power, but she insisted she was a veteran hunter with 10 years of experience. She explained that her experience came from surviving harsh environments, and admitted she should have easily outmatched him, but lasting 4 hours was remarkable. Looking out the window, she thought that even if she were reborn, she would never encounter another monster like him. Despite all the praise he received, the boss reminded that no matter how highly he was rated, there were still limits. The Jeodongdo Island mission specifically requested hunters with prior mission experience. His skills may be excellent, but will he be able to keep up with veteran teammates? Lee Se-eun reassured the boss not to worry about that concern, because he was paired with someone reliable. The leader agreed to trust her judgment. He wondered what the kid would be like if he ever reached her level. She warned that the answer might not be pleasant. If Yu Chan-seok ever reached this level, things would change. The newcomer would be able to take down the boss as well. 1 month earlier, a delivery worker repeats the address for apartment 1506 as he searches for the correct door. Struggling with the weight of the package, the delivery worker wonders aloud what could possibly be inside. After finishing one delivery, the worker checks the label for the next package. He announces that the next delivery has arrived as he approaches the door. Yu Chan-seok sits in front of a large case and remarks that it's unbelievably long. After opening the case, Yu Chan-seok inspects the spear and decides it should be fine with a new part. He introduces the elixir, explaining that it's a potion hunters use in emergencies because it contains condensed mana for urgent situations. The typical way of handling mana is compared to drinking water from a purifier, with the elixir allowing that process to happen much faster. However, MC noted that he used mana in a different way than others. He skipped the storage process and directly absorbed mana from the atmosphere, giving him unlimited access to mana in the air. In addition, as he repeatedly took in and released mana, the channels it passed through gradually strengthened, allowing him to use even more mana. However, until those mana channels grew, he could only handle a small amount at once, making it difficult to produce strong output quickly, so he decided to store some mana in advance. He thought that if he trained with the elixir for about a month, he should be able to grow just as much as he needed. After a while, Incheon, Gyeodongdo Island, a line of people waited outside a building under the bright morning sky. Someone held up a smartphone, displaying a QR code for scanning. An official confirmed Yu Chan-seok's identity and assigned him to Squad 8. A weathered sign with the number 8 marked the squad's gathering point. As Yu Chan-seok joined the group, the other squad members murmured about their pay, nerves, and whether they were at the right spot. Someone calls out Yu Chan-seok's name, catching his attention. He commented that her hair seemed to have settled down, and she explained it was just static electricity before. Sang-na pointed out that they were in the same squad and suggested working together during the mission, but he questioned why he should. She replied that he was stronger than her, and she could learn from him. Then he sarcastically joked about his shoulders falling off from awe. Han Sang-na jokingly asks if his shoulders dislocate often and warns about the dangers for a spear user, while Yu Chan-seok internally notes that she has no sense of humor. A staff member calls for everyone's attention before the mission briefing begins. Once Squad 8 has gathered, the staff member announces that the mission briefing will now commence. The staff member explains that since there are hunters participating for the first time, he will also go over the terminology, prompting Yu Chan-seok to wonder if he's being singled out. He details that corrosion rifts are classified from Class 1 to unclassified, with Class 1 being the most dangerous, and notes that the first rift in an area is called Alpha. The staff member states that the Alpha corrosion rift is currently located at the church in northern Insari, and urges everyone to avoid it since rifts grow stronger over time. The staff member explains that their mission is to patrol Yuknairi and Jeodongmyeon to identify and eliminate any additional corrosion rifts. One of the hunters questioned sending a squad with a rookie on an elimination mission. Upon arrival, someone announced that they had reached Yeodongdo Island. Hunters discussed that they could feel the chilling energy even from a distance, as if their blood was turning cold. At the same time, the protagonist thought to himself that everyone else was being overly dramatic. The group was informed that the situation on the island was being reported to the offshore control room, and they could contact them if help was needed. A message wished the hunters good luck as they prepared for their mission. One of the team members explained that they would need to scout 2 areas over the course of a week. Another member looked confused and Weber. The protagonist suggested setting up a base at Hwagesa Temple and operating from there. One of the men questioned who he was and asked why they needed to go there. Yu Chansuk explains that Wagyesa Temple offers a strategic vantage point and can also be used for lodging. Some hunters argue there are plenty of places to stay nearby and worry about getting surrounded if they climb the mountain, while Yu Chansuk dismisses their concerns. One of the hunters refuses to follow orders from an inexperienced hunter, prompting Yu Chansuk to think that illogical people exist everywhere. Someone suggests that if they disagree, they should simply act separately. After that, they moved quickly through the forest. Yu Chansuk wonders who the unfamiliar hunter is, noting that his mana is slightly higher than Han Sang-a's. Yu Chansuk asks Kim Min-jae why he decided to follow them. Kim Min-jae explains that he was worried about letting two rookies act on their own, prompting Yu Chansuk to thank him for his consideration and think that at least one person here is decent. But suddenly, MC stops abruptly and, raising his hand, tells his allies to stop. Yu Chansuk quietly instructs Kim Min-jae to peek over to the other side. Kim Min-jae nervously peers around the corner to see what lies ahead. A large group of monstrous creatures gathers in the forest clearing, blocking the group's path. Kim Min-jae anxiously suggests they should take a detour, warning that there are at least 50 enemies ahead. MC told him to calm down and asked what his unique skill was, prompting surprise about fighting the monsters. Pressing further, he insisted that it's natural for a hunter to fight corrosion creatures and repeated his question about his unique skill. Kim Min-jae hesitantly revealed his skill was flame. Fireball was the ability they were most confident in. The protagonist instructed him to attack first on his signal, leaving him shocked by the request. Han Sang-na asked what her role would be, and the guy was shocked. Was she in cahoots with him? Kim Min-jae protests that it's reckless to face 50 enemies with just the 3 of them, especially since this is their first mission. While Kim Min-jae suggests radioing the other hunters, the protagonist points out that they won't arrive in time. The protagonist explains that unlike their group, which departed directly from Wagyesa Temple, the other hunters are currently searching along the coast. He continues that radioing the others is risky, because there's no guarantee anyone will arrive, and if the monsters scatter, they could threaten the other hunters. Realizing the logic, Kim Min-jae silently admits that the protagonist is right. The protagonist explains that even if a hunter is nearby, they might not come right away because of the earlier conflict. He concludes that they have to handle the situation themselves, and given their disadvantage, their best option is to launch a surprise attack. Since there's no time to waste, the protagonist quickly outlines the plan. Kim Min-jae will attack the center with a fireball while he blocks the sides. Kim Min-jae agrees to the plan, internally marveling at how detailed the strategy is and wondering how the protagonist could be so experienced. Meanwhile, a group of monstrous creatures gathers, seemingly unaware of the plan being set against them. Kim Min-jae launches a fireball attack and shouts for the others to act now. A massive explosion erupts as the fireball hits its target. Kim Min-jae warns that he needs a moment before firing another fireball, and the protagonist tells him to shoot as soon as he's ready. Kim Min-jae responds with determination, confirming that he understands. The protagonist thinks to himself that he always prioritizes efficiency in battle. The protagonist moves swiftly through the battlefield, reflecting that dividing roles is essential for maximum efficiency. One of the monsters lets out a roar, preparing to attack with glowing eyes and bared fangs. Until the next fireball is ready, the protagonist decides to handle the remaining monsters to keep them away from Kim Min-jae. He acknowledges that he can't block all of the monsters by himself as the enemies close in. For that reason, he concludes once again that dividing the roles is important. Han Sang-na unleashed a powerful sword strike, sending several monsters flying back with a burst of energy. After her attack, Han Sang-na paused to catch her breath, surrounded by crackling energy. A voice called out through the flames, announcing to Chansuk that they were ready. Yu Chansuk responded with determination, promising to get out of the way and telling them to shoot. Kim Min-jae unleashed a massive fire attack, engulfing the area in flames as he struck from above. A massive explosion erupted in the forest, sending debris and flames flying in all directions. MC shouted, "Kill them both." Smoke and dust billowed up into the trees as the aftermath of the blast settled over the area. Yu Chansuk stood quietly with his weapon, surveying the destruction left behind. MC began to say that everyone did a good job, but trailed off mid-sentence. His ally pointed a gun at him, and he was very nervous about this. But Min-jae smiled awkwardly and asked him to step aside, while he thought he was about to shoot him. After that, he shooted the gun at the monster. Han Sang-na questioned if Kim Min was implanting a microchip, and he explained that after the mission, a contracted junk dealer would collect the bodies. When Yu Chansuk asked about the junk dealer, Kim Min-jae clarified that recovering byproducts from the corpses was difficult because they were bulky and heavy. Kim Min-jae explained that if they tag the bodies with chips, junk dealers will arrive after the mission to collect anything valuable. He continued, saying the dealers appraise the items, sell them, split the profits, and return the remainder to the hunter, who implanted the chip after taking their commission. Yu Chansuk asked if the junk dealers could be trusted, and Kim Min-jae replied that it's important to find a reliable one and sign a contract. Kim Min-jae praised Yu Chansuk for his performance, amazed that the 3 of them managed to handle 50 enemies together. Suddenly, a monstrous enemy crashed down from above, forcing Yu Chansuk and Kim Min-jae to brace themselves for the impact. After being knocked back, MC quickly asked if everyone was okay. As they regrouped, Minjae demanded to know what was happening now. The protagonist glanced ahead and remarked that it looked like something was coming. A monstrous figure appeared, and MC identified it as some kind of mid-boss. Seeing the threat, he muttered in frustration. Damn it. Yu Chansuk wondered if this monstrous figure was the leader of the creatures they had faced earlier. Realizing the immense mana radiating from the enemy, Yu Chansuk declared that he would handle it alone and told the others not to interfere. Kim Min-jae suggested that if the monster was after their group, the other two wouldn't be able to escape, so they should buy time with a pincer attack, fall back, and report the situation. Yu Chansuk shouted at his allies to stop talking and get back, warning them not to risk ending up in a body bag. These powerful words shook them up and brought them back to reality. Yu Chansuk decided it was better to handle the fight alone, so he could use Paradox Flame without worrying about friendly fire. He challenged the monster directly, taunting it to come at him. Meanwhile, his companions wondered if they should help, thinking he looked like he was in trouble. But Sana insisted there was no need, explaining that even if it looked like Yu Chansuk was being pushed back is not true. Meanwhile, Yu Chansuk continued his assault on the monster, still managing to avoid every attack. Han Sai-na observes the fight and notes that there's more to Yu Chansuk's performance than it seems. She realizes those are attacks she would have struggled just to dodge herself. Yet Yu Chansuk is managing to dodge and attack at the same time. On top of that, every time his spear lands a strike, black flames appear, leaving her wondering what kind of power that is. As the black flames intensify, the monster noticeably slows down. At first, it seemed like Yu Chansuk was struggling, but now he's clearly toying with the monster. Is he really a rookie like her? How is this even possible? Yu Chansuk launched another attack, forcing the monster back with overwhelming speed. Without slowing down, he slid across the ground to dodge the monster's counterattack. Then he reached up and called his weapon back into his hand. As the monster charged forward, Lee Hyun-suk hurled his spear with all his strength. Min-jae was shocked to realize that he had thrown his weapon. He urgently called out to Yu Chansuk, warning him to watch out as the monster closed in. The creature lunged in close, baring its fangs just inches from his face. In the next instant, the monster was slammed violently into the ground. He was surprised that the monster could still move after he had burned away all of its strength. He would have to finish it off for good. Meanwhile, they stared in shock at the sudden turn of events. Min-jae thought it had looked like Hunter Yu Chansuk was being pushed back, but now the monster was down, and he couldn't understand what had happened. MC called out to him and asked whether a monster like this should appear on Jeongdo Island. He also wondered if it was possible for an entity that wasn't even the core of the corrosion rift. Yu Chansuk recalls that corrosion rifts are divided into 4 tiers, and remembers hearing in the pre-mission briefing that the Alpha Corrosion Rift on Jeongdo Island was unclassified. Yu Chansuk concludes that the Alpha Corrosion Rift on Jeongdo Island must have increased to grade 3, surprising his allies. Han Sana protests that the briefing said otherwise, but Yu Chansuk insists that rationally, it must be grade 3 since nothing else explains the situation. Kim Min-jae exclaims that the difference between an unclassified rift and a grade 3 one is enormous, and starts to consider the implications if that's true. Kim Min-jae warns that the number of hunters who can make it back alive will be close to none. Kim Min-jae urges Yu Chansuk to help save the other hunters, insisting that with his skills, even a grade 3 rift could be handled, but Yu Chansuk immediately rejects the idea. Yu Chansuk explains that he can't possibly save every hunter on the island by himself, and admits he has his own limits. Their mission is to identify and eliminate new corrosion rifts, not to save every hunter in danger, and warns that not everyone can be expected to survive this kind of work. Han Sai-na asks Yu Chansuk how he would feel if he were the one in that situation. Han Sai-na challenges Yu Chansuk by asking if he would feel it was unfair and beg to be saved, then questions if that means he should naturally feel compassion and go save others. Yu Chansuk clarifies that he isn't ignoring people's emotions, but is instead focused on the outcome. The protagonist explains that in this world, some deaths are simply unavoidable. He continues, stating that when someone faces an unavoidable death, no matter what they think or feel, they die. Yu Chansuk advises the group not to be swayed by a desperate situation. Surviving in a world like this requires a different mindset. After a while, MC confirmed the building was intact and free of corrupted beings, which brought relief. He asked if he could see anything, and Min-jae replied that it was too dark to notice anything special. However, he pointed out that the lights made it possible to spot the other hunters' locations. Using lights was risky because it exposed their position. Revealing their position wouldn't matter against weak monsters, but it would be dangerous if another powerful one appeared. He decides to send a warning message to everyone, identifying himself as Yu Chansuk of Squad 8 and mentioning the threat level of the monster they encountered. The message warns that the Alpha Corrosion Rift may have reached grade 3 and advises everyone to avoid using lights recklessly to prevent danger. After that, MC began asking questions and drawing on the ground with a stick. So destroying the core of the corrosion rift would make all the corrupted beings disappear, and Min-jae confirmed that without its energy, the corrupted zone would vanish. After thinking it over, he decided the solution was simple. He concluded that he just needed to destroy the corrosion rift. Later, the allies fell asleep, and the protagonist reached out to place a small box with a button on the floor. Yu Chan-suk recalls that the device should sound an alarm if a monster approaches, so he feels safe letting his companions rest. He thinks it's fortunate he confirmed the location of the Alpha Corrosion Rift during the briefing, believing things should go smoothly at this rate. Suddenly, Yu Chan-suk's eyes widen in shock as something unexpected happens. Realizing what just happened, MC muttered that he had jinxed it. Clenching his fist as energy sparked around it, he demanded, "You again?" An enormous monster stands before him, and he hadn't seen that face before. Inside the Gyeodongdo Island Hunter Association Situation Room, an operator reported that signals from some Team 5 hunters had been lost, and they were presumed dead. Another staff member urgently relayed that monsters were moving in an organized fashion, confirming a casualty from Team 3 and questioning how this could happen in an unclassified corrosion rift. Realizing the severity of the situation, the manager ordered reinforcements, activation of the emergency contact network, and an urgent request for cooperation to all nearby hunters. Suddenly, a staff member alerted the manager that someone was approaching the Alpha Corrosion Rift, prompting a shocked response. The manager urgently ordered his staff to contact the person heading toward the Alpha Corrosion Rift and demanded to know their identity. A staff member identified the individual as Hunter Yu Chan-seok from Team 8, noting he was the first to recognize the Corrosion Rift upgrade. The manager instructed his team to connect to Yu Chan-seok's terminal and confirm his status, realizing this upgrade was unprecedented and that Chan-seok was the first to respond. Someone concluded that if anyone could provide an answer, it had to be Yu Chan-seok, just as the connection was being established. Yu Chan-seok was caught off guard by the monster's speed, exclaiming that it was much faster than he expected. Yu Chan-seok angrily berated the operators for their lack of proper investigation, threatening revenge for putting him in danger. He realized that his paradox flame, in its current state, wasn't strong enough to kill the monster. Against such a powerful enemy, Yu Chan-suk needed to weaken it with paradox flame before finishing it off with his spear. Despite his efforts, the beast refused to go down. He recalled that he had used too much of Gyeodongdo Island's mana earlier, which left the monster much weaker than usual. Since he couldn't leave Gyeodongdo Island, Yu Chan-suk decided he needed to find a place there where he could draw mana. A moment later, he located the spot he was searching for. Lightning crackled as Yu Chan-suk leapt toward the monster, ready to attack. He told his opponent to keep up as he charged forward. There was something he needed to check before continuing the fight. A staff member reported that the GPS signal had been lost. Another staff member announced that Hunter Yu Chan-seok had entered the Alpha Corrosion Rift. Looking around, MC noted that the area was cleaner than he expected. He recalled hearing that unclassified and Grade 3 corrosion rifts weren't that big, and wondered how large Grades 1 and 2 could be. But now his tour of the corrosion rift was over. Facing the towering monster, he suggested ending their relationship, adding that he was not the clingy type. The creature lets out a ferocious roar, baring its fangs and dripping saliva. Yu Chan-seok explains that one of the biggest problems with Paradox Flame is its uncontrollable nature. He continues, revealing that Paradox Flame spreads to every living being except himself. Even an ally could be affected by Paradox Flame, as he looked ahead with determination. If Paradox Flame reached a level he could no longer control, it would become unusable. He charges forward with his weapon, unleashing the power of Paradox Flame against his enemy. As the purple flames erupt, Yu Chan-seok continues his assault, fully embracing the uncontrollable force. The monster is engulfed by the raging Paradox Flame, overwhelmed by its destructive energy. Turning back with a confident look, he remarked that fighting alone meant the drawback hardly mattered. The important part was about to begin. Blue energy courses through Yu Chan-seok's chest as he activates his power. The energy spreads to his heart and throughout his ribcage, illuminating his internal mana pathways. The mana he absorbed spreads to every corner of his body, widening and strengthening his mana pathways. Yu Chan-seok remarks that this process is more efficient than he expected. A monstrous beast covered in crackling purple energy lowers its head, saliva dripping from its mouth. A glowing magical circle appears in the night sky, radiating energy above the landscape. Yu Chan-seok realizes what his opponent was planning and comments on it with a knowing smile. Several hulking monsters charge forward, their jaws open wide as they prepare to attack. MC asked, so he called for backup? Facing the charging monsters, Yu Chan-seok declares that trying to overwhelm him with numbers is now meaningless. A massive surge of dark energy erupts around Yu Chan-seok, tearing through the ground and engulfing the area. He realized he was several times stronger than before, though still not at the level he had reached in the other world, and wondered where the core of the corrosion rift was. He recalls that, according to Hunter Kim Min-jae, the core should be the strongest corrosion creature in this space. Suddenly, a menacing voice commands Yu Chan-seok to stop. A shadowy creature raises its weapon and ominously declares that a powerful force crashes down, sending water and debris flying across the area. Yu Chan-seok observes the monster and remarks that it was waiting for his paradox flame to die out, noting its intelligence. As he understood, the core of a corrosion rift is on completely another level. The monster confidently declared that he would kill him. Yu Chansuk assessed his current strength and decided he should be able to pull off a 4-hit combo. Without hesitation, he launched himself forward to begin his attack. His weapon slashed through the air, sending sharp energy blades toward his opponent. The monster raised its weapon to block the incoming attack, bracing for impact. Sparks flew as the monster's weapon clashed violently with Yu Chansuk's strike. A burst of blue energy exploded as Yu Chansuk's attack struck the monster's weapon at close range. Dual Orbit Spear. A spiraling blue energy attack launched the monster backward, shattering the ground beneath it. The monster stared in shock, unable to react to the sudden assault. The Dual Orbit Spear generates a blue trajectory that repeats the initial strike 4 times. If he attacks together with the trajectory, it's simply a technique that repeats 4 consecutive strikes. At that moment, the monster faces another fierce attack from the protagonist's spear. However, he wonders what would happen if the blue trajectory attacked a beat late instead. This adjustment creates a tricky 2-part spear round that's much harder for the enemy to dodge. Faced with a pincer attack unfolding with a time lag, the opponent is left at a disadvantage. Anyone is bound to make a mistake. The protagonist declares to his opponent that it's over. After that, he launches a powerful attack right into the monster. Each mana attack pierces the creature's body, leaving holes through it. As the creature's mask begins to break apart, the protagonist admits he thought it would just dissipate, and that would be the end. The protagonist examines a glowing object in his hands, questioning if it is some kind of box. He carefully opens the mysterious purple box, trying to figure out its purpose. Suddenly, the protagonist reacts in shock as something unexpected happens. Inside a control room, staff urgently report that the corrupted zone is spreading and they've lost contact with Team 9's hunters. Multiple voices announce that the reinforcement hunters have encountered monsters, and interference is making it difficult to land on Jodongdo Island. One of the staff members stares in fear, wondering if this is the end. He despairs that unless a miracle happens, he can only stand by and watch as the hunters are wiped out, when someone suddenly calls out for the manager. A staff member urgently announces that a message has arrived from Hunter Yu Chansuk, who entered the Alpha Corrosion Rift, prompting another to demand what it says. Another staff member says they'll put the message on the main screen, revealing that the Alpha Corrosion Rift on Gyodongdo Island has been taken care of. The staff confirm that the Alpha Corrosion Rift signal on Gyodongdo Island has vanished, and all corrosion creatures that encountered the hunters have been annihilated. One of the staff members stares in disbelief, calling the recent event a miracle. How is it even possible? Yu Chansuk sits under the night sky and remarks that the air is nice. A powerful impact sends a monster crashing through a wall, as several figures are thrown back by the force. Han Sang-ah unleashes a fierce sword attack, electricity crackling around her as she strikes. Han Sang-ah grips her electrified sword tightly, preparing for the next attack. While catching her breath, Han Sang-ah realizes there are too many enemies now, and that Yu Chansuk is gone. Min-jae called her name as they stood back to back. He wasn't sure. Will they even make it out of this alive? Han Sang-ah notes that Kim Min-jae is already at his limit, as they both struggle to keep going. Han Sang-ah, gripping her sword with a wounded leg, admits to herself that she doesn't know how much longer she can hold on. A monstrous creature charges forward, shrieking loudly with its jaws wide open. Despite her injuries, Han Sang-ah braces herself on the ground as energy crackles around her. But the next second, she was shocked. Surrounded by monsters, she realized her legs would no longer hold her up. Kim Min shouts Sana's name in alarm as he rushes forward. A monstrous creature lunges with its jaws wide open, baring its fangs in a ferocious attack. A heavy impact echoes through the night. Han Sang-ah slowly opens her eyes, realizing something has changed. Kim Min-jae stands in shock as the monster in front of him suddenly begins to disintegrate, while Han Sang-ah looks on from the ground. At the Gyodongdo Island Hunter Assembly Point, groups of people gather near tents and ambulances after the recent chaos. Yu Chansuk observes the scene and notes that many people are injured, realizing the corrosion creatures must have gone on a rampage while he was away. 2 battered survivors spot Yu Chansuk and call out his name in disbelief. Everyone questioned whether that guy had really taken down a grade 3 corrosion rift all by himself. As he approached, Min-jae waved and called out, "Chanseok," prompting him to respond, "Ah, there you are." They were shocked to receive Yu Chanseok's text and questioned how he could take on the corrosion rift alone. MC claimed he acted out of concern for the hunters, while privately noting that managing his image was also a skill. He remarked that he would have set out before sundown if he had known, just as someone approached and addressed him as Hunter Yu Chanseok. Bayan Jongtae introduces himself as the 3rd branch manager for the northern Gyeonggi Incheon province from the Korea Operating Corporation. Yu Chansuk realizes Bayan Jongtae was the one who summoned him, and asks if he has a moment to talk. The mayor would like to see him. Yu Chansuk wonders if ordering people around is just something old folks do. He recalls that his contract never specified the bonus for clearing a grade 3 corrosion rift, and decides to negotiate the price since he's already here. A man greets Yu Chansuk and says, "It's a pleasure to meet him." The man introduces himself as Lee Piljae, the communications and liaison officer. As they walk down the hallway, Lee Piljae tells Yu Chansuk that the mayor has been sincerely looking forward to this meeting, and was shocked by the report from Jodongdo Island earlier that morning. Lee Piljae explains that after seeing the report, the mayor cancelled his entire morning, while Yu Chan-suk downplays his actions, saying they could have met later and that it wasn't anything impressive. Lee Pil-jae insists that a rookie hunter destroying a grade 3 corrosion rift single-handedly hasn't happened since the days of the great pioneer, while Yu Chan-seok admits he found it tough to handle alone. While Yu Chan-suk reflects on the precedent, Lee Pil-jae announces to the mayor that Hunter Yu Chan-suk has arrived. Mayor Park thanks Yu Chan-suk for coming all the way to meet him. Mayor Park Ji-yeon introduces himself and apologizes for summoning Yu Chan-suk in such terrible weather. He invites him to sit and asks the officer to bring them some coffee. As the coffee is served, the mayor praises Yu Chan-suk for his outstanding service to the country. The mayor explains that Jeongdo Island was a major problem due to budget constraints and expresses relief that Yu Chan-suk resolved it at a low cost. While sipping his coffee, Yu Chan-suk confirms that this was indeed his first commission after the mayor brings it up. The mayor of Incheon expresses his pride that someone as incredible as Yu Chan-suk began his journey in Incheon. While the mayor boasts about Korea being the safest country and Incheon as a key region, Yu Chan-suk internally wonders about the sudden praise. The mayor continues, crediting Incheon Airport's infrastructure for the flow of countless goods and mentioning the benefits of the Free Economic Zone project. He highlights that international cities like Songdo and Cheongna attract so many foreign investors that it's difficult to choose among them. Emphasizing his point, the mayor lists the massive funds from Incheon's international cities and the goods transported through the airport. His path as a hunter would be smooth with his assistance. A voice asks Yu Chan-suk for permission to ask him just one thing. While driving through the rain, Byun Jong-tae asks Yu Chan-suk to explain his purpose for becoming a hunter. Yu Chan-suk responds by saying that if there's a clogged toilet spewing filth, someone has to dive in and unclog it. Byun Jong-tae quietly acknowledges Yu Chan-suk's answer with a simple, he see. As the car drives through the rain, Byun Jong-tae explains that skilled hunters become famous, attracting commercial offers and even TV show scouts. Yu Chan-suk remarks that Byun Jong-tae seems worried fame will change him, and Byun Jong-tae admits many hunters lose sight of their duty due to popularity. Byun Jong-tae continues, saying it's only natural since the dangerous corrosion zone full of monsters lies just beyond the truce line. He adds that Korea is the only safe place left, known as the last sanctuary on Earth, but even it is being influenced by money. While driving, Byun Jong-tae praises Yu Chan-suk's recent accomplishments and notes that many struggling people will be watching him closely. Byun Jong-tae expresses his hope that Yu Chan-suk will continue to serve as a symbol of hope. After hearing those words, Yu Chan-suk wonders just how far they are willing to go. The man wasn't even trying to hide his intentions, but knew he wouldn't be swayed by something like this. Having lived for so long, the protagonist reflects on the countless hardships he has endured. Yu Chan-suk points out that if he's receiving this much support, there must be something expected of him in return. Yu Chan-seok bluntly suggests that the real goal is to help a mayor with falling approval ratings get re-elected, leaving the official momentarily stunned. He awkwardly admitted that MC was quite well informed, noting that people can find all sorts of things on their phones these days. He mentioned that the mayor's term was scheduled to end early next year, and that the general consensus was re-election would be difficult. Trying to redirect the conversation, the official nervously asks if Yu Chan-suk needed approval from Incheon City Hall to participate in the commission. Yu Chan-suk internally acknowledges that, unlike what the announcement said, he did need the Incheon mayor's permission to participate, realizing the mayor could use this to claim he discovered a new talent. Internally, Yu Chan-suk realized that after getting him involved, the mayor just wanted to ride his coattails. The mayor of Incheon began boasting about his connections with many overseas and domestic companies thanks to the city's infrastructure. As an example, the mayor pointed out an instant coffee mix brand and suggested they could replace its model with Hunter Yu Chan-seok since the current contract was ending soon. While the mayor tried to continue listing future opportunities, someone interrupted him by calling out, "Mr. Mayor." Yu Chan-seok looked up and told the mayor that it seemed he was being taken for someone cheap. The mayor, looking uneasy, remarked that the world needed someone who could change its dreary atmosphere, and suggested a new face was needed. Yu Chan-suk pointed out that if someone as talented as him continued working as a hunter, he explained that everything Mayor Park offered was simply his rightful share to take anyway. The mayor nervously tried to entice him with safe, high-paying commissions, but the protagonist found the offer uninteresting. He told the man to just congratulate the coffee mix model instead, since they would be able to extend this contract. Rain pours down over a deserted underpass, setting a somber and tense atmosphere. Two figures wait in the rain under the overpass, and one of them quietly responds, "I see." The hooded figure acknowledges that the Gyeongdo Island test was a failure and apologizes. The man in the suit says it can't be helped, but quickly adds that there is good news. The hooded figure asks about the item, and the man in the suit explains that it's a clip from Yu Chan-suk's Hunter Association certification exam video. On a phone screen, a video shows Yu Chan-suk unleashing a powerful flame, while excited voices praise his incredible abilities. With a sly smile, the hooded figure remarks that Yu Chan-suk is excellent excellent. Every month, the nation eagerly awaited the release of the latest hunter rankings, with crowds gathering to check the results. A child excitedly called for his mother to look at the announcement on his phone. Hunter Academy students discussed who might be ranked number 1 this month, though one of them clearly didn't care. While the rankings rarely changed and were mostly entertainment for the public, Min-jae in the hospital eagerly awaited the results. An official presented the September World Hunter Rankings to President Moon Jae-tae. Lee Se-en meanwhile checked her phone and asked if he was on the list too. This time, things were different, and MC noted that even a flashy presentation couldn't change that. What matters is the top 10. Lee Se-en was announced as 10th place, while her team reported that the tent setup was complete. Kim Chae-yeon is introduced as the 5th-ranked hunter, shown preparing with a focused expression. Choi Yo-rum, surrounded by flames, is announced as the 3rd-place hunter. Jang Tae-suk is revealed to be in 2nd place, as he kneels before a massive, glowing rift. An announcement reveals that Yoo Chan-suk has taken 1st place, catching his attention. A staff member tells Yoo Chan-suk that he has waited a long time and can finally go out. A digital list of new entry hunters for 2025 is shown, while someone mentions seeing Mr. Yoo Chan-suk. A message congratulates Yoo Chan-suk for entering the rankings in record time. A 5-year veteran hunter solo clearing a grade 3 corrosion rift was considered so common it was almost ignored in the hunter community. But a newly debuted hunter's first mission is a completely different story, as a journalist asks Yoo Chan-suk about his previous occupation. While Yoo Chan-suk stands at the podium before a massive audience, voices from the crowd bombard him with questions about receiving help and the escalation of the corrosion rift. Yoo Chan-suk internally compares the situation to being on a Finding Geniuses TV show, then announces he will take one last question due to his schedule. A reporter eagerly asks Yoo Chan-suk to share his mindset as a hunter, and comments that many people are interested in his future steps. Instead of giving a cliché answer, he told everyone to forget lines like, "I'll do my best." Yoo Chan-suk declares that he will prove himself through results. A voice explains that this is where Gonsal Prison used to be as the helicopter flies overhead. Below, the devastated cityscape reveals the ruins left behind after the disaster. Someone remarks that the horrific destruction is now common abroad, and after the corrosion rifts appeared, most countries lost their administrative capabilities. However, only South Korea became a powerhouse by defending the nation and advancing technologically, with their current helicopters serving as an example of that progress. He learned that many capitals disappeared after the corrosion rifts appeared, leaving countries in ruins. They'll take a closer look as the helicopter lands. They arrived at one of the 8 most dangerous corrosion rifts in the world, known as Gonsal Prison. Gonsal Prison had suddenly formed 13 years ago, spreading outward from the city center in a massive circle. It appeared without any signs or warnings. A few people barely managed to survive. In the area that had already become a corrosion zone, everyone was swept away before they could escape. Within just a few days, the entire city vanished without a trace. The director explained that while the appearance of corrosion rifts hadn't changed each nation's influence much, central governments had grown weaker internally. The protagonist thought it was nice to learn new information, but wondered what it had to do with being called there. The man mentioned that Yoon Sung-yeon from Taebaek had come looking for him a few days ago, apparently annoyed that the protagonist hadn't joined them. MC wondered if Yoon Sung-yeon was the big guy from before. The older man explains that Yoon Sung-yeon suddenly asked him about the protagonist's whereabouts, leaving the protagonist surprised. He clarifies that he didn't reveal any personal information, but warns that the Taebaek Guild's ideology is survival of the fittest, and they might try to subdue the protagonist by force. The protagonist finds the situation troublesome, realizing it would be difficult to defeat that guy with brute strength right now. Observing the protagonist's actions, the older man notes that he seems to prefer working alone rather than joining a guild, to which the protagonist reluctantly agrees. He explained that to block Taebaek's approach, it's best to raise his own standing. The director extended his hand to MC and said that he can do it by completing major missions proposed by him, for example. As expected, he realized there was a motive behind his offer, and the protagonist asked if there was something he wanted in return. He clarified that what mattered was the clear fact that he had given him help. That's all he needs to remember. MC thought, that much isn't difficult. It's not a big deal for him, since it's a mission from the president. It'll be good for building his reputation. When he asked what exactly he would be doing, he explained that he would be escorting a cargo ship from Busan to Nanning City, because transporting daily necessities through the corrosion zones was difficult. While reviewing the cargo list, the protagonist questions whether luxury items like high-end porcelain and a luxury sedan really count as daily necessities after 20 years. The older man explains that for some people, those items are necessities, and expresses surprise at the protagonist's mention of 20 years. The protagonist admits he doesn't understand why such things are needed in a country where the central government has collapsed. The director explained that even though many countries were collapsing due to corrosion rifts, international politics still mattered. Realizing these goods were meant to maintain certain relationships, The protagonist decided to decline this particular request. The man urgently insisted that the Korean government considered this matter very important. Even so, Chan-seok refused to change his mind, saying it would be foolish to get swept into the center of politics. The director rudely pointed out that MC was just a rookie hunter who had only recently debuted. He added that all the excessive attention seemed to have become poison for him. After this, the protagonist threw his papers and proposals right out of the helicopter, while he was yelling, "What is he doing?" Yu Chan-suk thanks the helicopter crew for the ride as he prepares to leave. He announces that he'll swim to Seoul on his own, leaving the older man in shock. Yu Chan-seok jumps out of the helicopter, falling through the sky as papers scatter around him. The man rushed to the edge in shock, watching the protagonist fall. A massive splash erupted as he hit the ocean, while the helicopter continued flying away. He muttered about kids these days after witnessing his reckless leap. At sunset, MC swam to Incheon port, where cargo ships and containers filled the harbor. A dock worker pauses mid-drink, looking up in confusion as something unexpected catches his attention. Suddenly, a hand bursts out of the water and grabs onto the dock, sending water splashing everywhere. Yu Chan-suk hauls himself onto the dock, gasping for air and drenched from head to toe. He thought he was going to die and wondered who told them to threaten him like that. A dock worker, noticing his state, commented that he must have been through a lot, and the protagonist thanked him. He decided that what he needed to do now was build his strength. He planned to prioritize solving the trickiest requests and become a big shot, and not to be swayed by anyone else. MC looked at his phone and decided that this mission seemed like a good choice. A system window confirms that the mission has been accepted, requesting hunters to help the Association of Kidnapping Victims on Tsushima Island. The interface displays that the estimated corrosion rift is grade 2. After accepting the mission, Yu Chan-suk lets out a sigh as he sits alone against the sunset. Yu Chan-suk remarks that he's going to be busy for a while. On September 3rd, fishermen from Jeoja Island and Tongyang set out to sea for the jumbo shrimp season. However, the sea was not as it usually was. Corrosion creatures that had nested on Tsushima Island appeared and began kidnapping the fishermen as if hunting them. According to a survivor who barely escaped, the captured fishermen are still alive. The mission is to go to Tsushima Island, rescue the hostages, and eliminate the corrosion rift. Yu Chan-suk reviews the mission details on his phone, confirming the objective he needs to accomplish. He notes that the reward for completing the mission is 55 million won, and considers the possibility of handling it alone. If he succeeds by himself, Yu Chan-suk realizes that the entire reward will go to him, making it a worthwhile amount. On top of the money, he imagines that a successful solo rescue would give him a convincing heroic story and immense fame. He decided it was worth the challenge, but hesitated as he considered the risks. He recalled hearing that corrosion creatures exist on entirely different levels depending on their grade, with a grade 3 corrosion rift having the destructive power of a tank. He notes that a grade 2 corrosion creature is considered to be on the level of a natural disaster. For a grade 1 corrosion creature, an entire country must mobilize just to handle a single one. Yu Chan-suk admits that while grade 3 was manageable with Paradox Flame, he isn't sure he can withstand grade 2, and considers needing someone useful to eliminate variables. But the truly capable people wouldn't even consider a civilian request like this, leaving him to wonder if there was really no one else. But then he remembered that there actually was someone. After a while, he stood on the deck, armored and holding his weapon, ready for what lay ahead. Someone calls out the MC's name, Yu Chan-seok, as he turns to look over his shoulder. Han Sai-na asks how long it will take for them to reach Tsushima Island. Yu Chan-seok estimates that they will arrive in about an hour as he checks his device. He reminded to replenish her stamina before arrival, warning that this battle would be tougher than the last. Han Sai-na points out the item on Chan-seok's shoulder, prompting him to respond in confusion. Han Sai-na identifies his shoulder gear as Iron Seraphs, notes it's a limited edition, and asks how he obtained it. While Chan-seok wonders if she was always this talkative, Yu Chan-seok explains that the junk dealer he contracted with gave the gear as a gift, while Han Sai-na complains that her own contractor never gave her anything like that. Yu Chan-seok boasts that the level of expectation is different for him, since he handled a grade 3 corrosion rift solo, while calling Han Sai-na just a rookie hunter with only the title of Academy Valedictorian. She must get stronger and become famous if she felt wronged. A few days earlier, Sai-na asked if he needed a teammate, and MC confirmed, asking if it was possible. She recalled how they almost died in the grade 3 corrosion rift, and now a grade 2? He stared at his phone in silence, lost in thought, after which the protagonist challenged her, asking if she wanted to become stronger. He recalled how she once said that, since he was stronger, she could learn from him. He promised that if she still felt the same, he could guarantee results by teaching her. According to him, Sana could become several times stronger than she is now. So what will she do? She knew the reason why she must become stronger. She couldn't hesitate. For that goal, she would jump into hell itself without a second thought. Suddenly, a system window flashes with a loud warning as an alarm begins to sound. An urgent announcement reports that an unidentified object has been detected ahead, revealing the silhouette of a tattered ship through the mist. Han Sai-na questions if it's really a ship, while the protagonist confirms there are 5 ships in total. The protagonist wonders how they can reach the ships, noting that they must move secretly secretly because civilians are present. He asks Han Sai-na if she has a good method for handling the situation. He started hinting at that very ability of hers. She can do it, right? Sang-na was very happy to have the opportunity to tease him and asked, "Well, finally there's something he can't do, huh?" She laughed very hard, saying it was really easy and mocking him for admitting he couldn't do it. While carrying MC through water, he told her to be careful because she was splashing everywhere, explaining he couldn't run on water yet. The protagonist looks ahead in surprise as he continues moving through the water. He instructs Han Sai-na to handle the nearest ship, prompting her to ask why. The protagonist senses mana and notes that the energy grows stronger and more dangerous the further back it goes. Han Sai-na reacts in shock as she realizes something is wrong. Someone peers through the mist and questions whether the figure they see is actually human. The protagonist told her to open her eyes wider, because those aren't human movements, it's monsters. Han Sang-na lands heavily on the railing, bracing herself with one arm while gripping her injured shoulder. The MC warns Han Sai-na that landing like that will blow out her knees, then begins to add another point. He continues, explaining that such a landing will attract unwanted attention from the surrounding hostile crowd. A powerful stomp cracks the ground. Blinding blue energy blasts through the enemies, sending their bodies flying in all directions. The protagonist assesses that the enemies aren't high level, estimating them to be at the lowest tier of grade 2. He then considers that, in that case, Han Sai-na must be even stronger. A surge of green energy erupts as he wonders if this is Han Sai-na's full power. He urgently called out to her. She was using too much mana and would run out quickly at this rate. MC thought that for this level, a much lower output would be enough. Han Sai-na could become several times stronger if he taught her. He again shouted her name in alarm, and she cursed under her breath. After that, Sang-na attacked monsters and shouted, "Damn it." Despite the warning, she was still using too much power. She needs to reduce the output even more as the battle intensified. Reflecting on the harsh reality, she thought that the life of the weak was a tragedy. She remembered a time when everything felt infinitely cold and dark, vowing never to live as a weakling again. A warning was shouted to Han Sang-na about an imminent threat appearing right in front of her. At that moment, a surge of energy erupted as the attack struck with overwhelming force. She has a reason to become stronger. Han Sang-na declares that she would jump into hell itself if it meant becoming stronger. A scorched skeleton lies among the smoke and debris, hinting at the aftermath of a deadly battle. Han Sai-na stands bloodied but resolute, gripping her sword as bodies and destruction surround her. From above, MC asked if it was over while looking down at the scene. He reported that he had taken care of all the other boats. She admitted it wasn't a situation where she could afford to be stubborn. She thanked him for the advice, saying she learned a lot, while he replied that most people couldn't learn even if he spoon-fed them. Sana revealed that it was the first time anyone had given her advice, and he asked if her seniors or peers at the academy hadn't helped her. Han Sai-na explains that because she learned everything quickly, everyone just found her annoying, and then asks if MC thinks he might eventually surpass her if she keeps giving him advice. Han Sai-na states that there isn't a single teacher she hasn't surpassed. This pathos made him cringe in shock. He insisted that would never happen with him, and promised she'd be looking up to him for the rest of her life. And this answer really pissed her off. Two uniformed officers stand at attention and salute as the ship docks. One of the officers announces they will remain on standby at Geoja Island and wishes them good luck, while MC tells them to keep up the good work. MC relays that according to the survivor, the hostages are being held at the shrine. Han Sai-na explains that there are two shrines on the island, Gaijin Shrine and Atazumi Shrine. She suggests that Gaijin Shrine should be their first stop since it's closer, estimating they could reach it in a couple of hours. MC thinks to himself that while they can travel light on the way there, the return trip will be much more difficult. There are 15 hostages, and it will be even harder to return if any of them are wounded. The protagonist senses a sinister mana beyond the fog that feels like it's tearing his skin, and realizes the corrosion creatures across the island will relentlessly pursue them. To avoid being attacked by the creatures during the rescue and to safely return with the hostages, MC concludes they need a vehicle. MC asks Han Sai-na if she's a good driver, to which she confidently replies that she is. Suddenly, the vehicle screeches forward with a burst of speed. MC shouts in frustration, angrily questioning Han Sai-na's claim about being a good driver. As the van sped down the road, MC shouted about the brakes, while she snapped back that he should drive if he didn't like it. He grabbed the top of the car tightly and told her to forget it. He admits that reckless driving is still better than relying on his license, which hasn't been used in 20 years. On top of that, MC points out that he's much better at fighting anyway. With that, MC prepares to leap into action as the vehicle speeds forward. MC leaps out of the speeding vehicle as it careens along the road, leaving a trail of dust and force behind. A monstrous creature's skull is shattered by a powerful impact, sending fragments and blood flying. Gripping his spear, the protagonist remarked, "Sturdy." He shouted a warning to Han Sai-na about enemies incoming from the left, as figures leapt from the trees. She responded confidently, telling him to leave it to her, but he urgently warned, "Wait, if you do that." A monster is set flying and crashes violently onto the pavement, scattering debris everywhere. Han Sang-ah laughs loudly and taunts the monster, telling it to go roll on the pavement. MC wonders aloud if he should have been the one driving instead. A vehicle barrels down a forest path, plowing through a dense crowd of monsters blocking the way. MC spotted the shrine ahead and urged her to get inside, while Sang-ah worried about the monsters behind them. He promised to handle the monsters, and without hesitation, she shouted that they were going ahead. MC prepares to unleash an attack, declaring that since the monsters won't stop chasing them, he has no choice. Unleashing his skill Paradox Flame, MC engulfs the area in swirling purple fire. MC focuses on his plan, deciding he just needs to burn away the friction of the stairs. Purple flames swirl around MC as he prepares to act, shrouding the area in smoke and embers. A man with dark hair sits slumped against a wall, his arms bound tightly with rope. Unexpectedly for the man, he was asked, "Is he okay?" Introducing herself, Han Sang-ah announces that she is a hunter from the Hunter Association. Suddenly, loud screams erupt as the bound man reacts in panic. Han Sang-ah frantically tries to explain that she's not there to capture anyone and insists she came to save them. The bound man, overwhelmed with fear and tears streaming down his face, desperately shouts for everyone to run away. Han Sang-ah, wide-eyed and tense, begins to ask what the other person intends to do. A towering armored figure surrounded by crackling energy appears behind Han Sang-ah, casting an ominous presence over the scene. Yu Chan-suk clashed swords with the towering armored enemy, sparks flying from the force of their collision. With purple energy crackling around him, Yu Chan-suk ordered the others to get the survivors in the car, promising to handle the threat himself. As the armored monster charged forward, Yu Chan-suk prepared to counter its attack with his own weapon. The massive enemy loomed over Yu Chan-suk, both of their blades locked in a tense standoff. A moment later, the armored monster was sent crashing backward. Han Sang-ah shouted furiously at her opponent, demanding that they die. The armored monster lay defeated amidst the rubble, its helmet cracked and smoke rising from the impact. As the dust settled, Yu Chan-suk stood at a distance with his weapon, watching the fallen monster near the wrecked vehicle. Yu Chan-suk insisted that Han Sang-ah promise not to touch the steering wheel when they returned, while she impatiently told him to just get in. While the vehicle sped away, she confirmed that all the hostages were safely on board. Sang-ah stared forward, and after that urgently warned MC to watch the front. A swarm of red-eyed monsters emerged from the darkness of the forest. One of the skeletal monsters with glowing red eyes appeared menacingly close. Yu Chan-suk realized that the monster was still alive, even after being hit by a car. She was shocked when he asked to borrow her sword. She protests that asking a swordsman for their sword is a huge insult, while monsters with glowing red eyes approach. The protagonist insists that people's lives are more important than a swordsman's honor, reminding Han Sang-ah of what truly matters. Reluctantly, Han Sang-ah releases her sword, handing it over. With the sword now in hand, the protagonist prepares to face the oncoming threat. The protagonist admits he didn't expect to have to use this item so soon. A few days earlier, the protagonist was inside the Jiodongdo Grade 3 corrosion rift. Looking surprised, the protagonist realizes what he has found. He identifies the object on the ground as a glove. After putting it on, the protagonist confirms that it wasn't just an ordinary glove. The protagonist observes that the glove is gathering mana from the atmosphere. He reasons that while the glove is likely just basic equipment meant to supplement mana, for him it means much more. Taking into account the glove-type mana battery's maximum storage capacity, he estimates it will last about 5 minutes. During those 5 minutes, the protagonist believes he can become strong enough to rival Lee San. At that moment, Han Sang-ah unleashes a powerful sword technique as red energy fills the air. The protagonist braces himself with his spear and sword as the aftermath of Han Sang-ah's attack fills the area with blinding light. Debris and enemies are sent flying as a web of red energy slashes through the battlefield, scattering everything in its path. Han Sang-ah stares in disbelief and mutters that this can't be happening. He had suppressed so many enemies at once. With determination in his eyes, he quietly declared, "Now, they needs to head to the port," without looking back as they hurried down the street. They arrived at Hadakatsu Port, the empty road stretching out before them. MC admitted he thought they just had to get past those guys, but as more enemies appeared, he wondered where they kept coming from. While Sang-ah insisted the car was at its limit and wanted to stop, the protagonist simply told her to keep driving. She worried that, at this rate, they might not make it. A glowing barrier formed behind the vehicle, blocking the path of the pursuing monsters, preventing them from advancing any further. Sang-ah noticed that the monsters chasing them were suddenly being blocked by something invisible. Han Sang-ah wonders if the sudden change could be caused by something specific. Han Sang-ah looks out the window at a glowing magic circle on the wall, wondering if that's the reason for the monster's behavior. Yu Chan-suk explains that the symbol is called protective formation geometry, as his spear touches the formation. Han Sang-ah asks what protective formation geometry is, and Yu Chan-suk replies that it's a drawing method that repels monsters. When Han Sang-ah asks where he learned it, Yu Chan-suk says she couldn't learn it even if he told her, since he learned it in another world. But he's good. His skills are getting better and better. Han Sang-ah asks if the geometry method can repel any monster. Yu Chan-suk replies that he wishes it could, but there's a limitation. He explains that the method doesn't work on the real ones, while a massive armored monster mutters about sacrifice and protection. The armored monster repeats its intent, declaring it must protect. Han Sang-ah stands tense as a red line of energy appears behind her. He noticed the atmosphere had turned chilling, but it didn't feel that threatening considering the situation. She wondered if Mind's Eye was the ability to open one's senses beyond the usual 5 and predict an opponent's attack. Even skilled masters found Mind's Eye difficult, so she questioned how a mere corpse could use such a technique. He reassured his companion that there was no need to be afraid. He explains that techniques like Mind's Eye are ultimately just tricks in reality. The MC promises to teach Han Sang-ah how to handle threats like the one they just faced. The armored enemy recoils in shock, clearly affected by the MC's actions. Han Sang-ah protests as the MC moves forward alone, beginning to explain the true nature of Mind's Eye. He explains that Mind's Eye is data accumulated through countless combat experiences, functioning like an acquired reflex. According to the MC, since Mind's Eye reacts unconsciously to hostility or fear, simply projecting killing intent can overwhelm most opponents, though few are capable of doing so. Mind's Eye, Heart Sword, and the state of selflessness, the union of man and sword, myriad streams returning to the origin, the so-called realms. At that moment, he faced off against a giant, armored opponent, preparing to strike. With a single motion, he shattered the armored giant, sending its pieces flying through the air. Afterward, the protagonist remarked that those realms were actually nothing special. The illusion called enlightenment is terrifying, as people limit themselves by getting attached to special names. However, he believes that what truly matters on the battlefield doesn't require a special name. He asserts this confidently, claiming he has the right to say so. After all, escaping that trap cost him countless sacrifices. MC comments that while the man survived being hit by Han Sang-ah's car, it's unfortunate his ultimate move is only Mind's Eye. She wondered what she had accomplished on her own during this subjugation. While she kept telling herself this was her best, Chansok's strength far exceeded what she had imagined. She couldn't do this with a half-hearted mindset. For the sake of her goal, she pressed forward. She quietly said she had a favor to ask of Chansok. Sang-ah looked him in the eyes and asked to be taught for real.